always go back to hateful thoughts lead to hateful words, which then lead to hateful actions.
No.
Somebody on your network got shit canned. Matthew...
I think the official term was let go.
Okay, this is...
Hey, welcome back, everybody. In case you're not familiar with this story, Matthew Dowd was an MSNBC reporter who got fired after he basically justified the assassination of Charlie Kirk.
But following up what was just said, he's been one of the most divisive, especially divisive younger figures in this, who is constantly sort of pushing this sort of hate speech or sort of aimed at certain groups. And I always go back to hateful thoughts lead to hateful words, which then lead to hateful action.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard.
Then yesterday he was on a podcast complaining that nobody in the media cared about him like they cared about Jimmy Kimmel.
All the shows are talking about how, like, this is awful for America that Jimmy Kimmel was, you know, indefinitely suspended, and isn't this awful for America, and it's a chilling thing for the First Amendment, and they're saying that on every platform.
What the fuck is this?
Not one person has said anything about me.
What, are you gonna cry now?
Not one person on that network has said, they've all gone out of their way to say, isn't this horrible what happened to Jimmy Kimmel? Isn't even including Morning Joe and Mika, who went after me after the show, basically saying they were glad I was terminated.
A human.
Now we have Bill Maher's response to all of this. Then I have a moment of zen that you absolutely have to see at the end of the video.
Somebody on your network got shit canned. Matthew...
I think the official term was let go.
Okay, this is... Matthew Dowd said you can't be saying these awful words and then not expect awful actions to take place. Yes, you can. I do expect that. I do not expect awful actions to take place. I think this is awful when you open this window. Like, I didn't like what he said, and what he said was vile and this and that. Irrelevant. Irrelevant. We don't shoot people in this country, and we don't defend it, and we don't mock their death.
Common sense, common sense.
Does Matthew Dowd even understand what he's saying? There's a lot of people out there that think what they hear on MSNBC and from Matthew Dowd himself is awful.
It's different.
If someone decided to apply the Matthew Dowd standard to Matthew Dowd or maybe one of his cohorts over at MSNBC, would he be on TV the very next day trying to justify it by claiming that the things they said were awful? No, of course not. He'd be blaming rhetoric from Fox News. That's the thing. What people think is awful is very subjective. And if we're all going to adopt this standard, where does that leave us? War. Obviously, if we all adopt this standard, then everyone is just assassinating each other for the awful things they said. One other thing, what are these supposedly awful things that Charlie Kirk supposedly said? Every example that I hear is either wildly taken out of context, or it's a fact that the left just doesn't like hearing, so they call it hate. For example, Charlie Kirk talking about black crime stats in the context of gun violence, and the undeniable, well-documented fact that the vast majority of it comes from black-on-black gang and domestic violence. Matthew Dowd may ignore and cover up those statistics, thinking that he's protecting black people from racism, but it just isn't so. Okay, now I promised you all a moment of zen, and now is the time for that. It comes to us from Scott Jennings, and it's gonna make you laugh your ass off.
I'm not going to sit up and be in my tears. I'm a whole veteran, baby. So at the end of the day, yeah, come on in the foxhole and get comfortable. I am about what it is. And so just own it. Yeah, just own it, Scott. It's okay.
I don't understand about 75% of what just happened. However, one thing Brendan Carr told me today, and it is true, that the current regulatory regime as it exists is set up by the United States Congress. 1934 Communications Act, and he said we're going to enforce that regime as it stands. And he said if they want to change it, if they want to make different rules, if they want to change the way these systems operate or the regulatory thing works, we'll abide by that. But right now, in his view, Congress has set up a system. They're enforcing that system, and until Congress changes it, that'll be what they do.
I have to say.
Well, I actually talked to Brendan Carr today, too, for about 20 minutes. He brought up a similar concept, but it was in the framework of these local affiliates who have to live by these public interest rules finally getting a chance to push back against the networks, the programmers. It was his view that for too long, the programmers, the networks, had too much power over these affiliates and had basically been able to boss them around. We have to live by these rules. We have to live under the public interest rules. We don't, particularly like to air this. We're the ones hearing about it from our viewers and from our advertisers, and we're finally pushing back on it. Well, I think what he was saying that they're upset about is that all of their viewers are complaining and all of their advertisers are complaining.
All their viewers aren't complaining.
The few that Jimmy Kimmel has. And they're getting all these complaints. They're not making any money on it. They're facing enormous financial pressures.
They're not making any money on what?
Selling advertising. Nobody wants to buy advertising on this show.
Late night shows.
Nobody? You say all and nobody.
I'm in this business. I'm going to tell you right now. That's where they give away the freebies at night. Trust me. He has a clear point of view here, which is that these groups that own these affiliates, and I think the two companies are Nexstar and Sinclair, they own over 60 affiliates, that they, independent of anything he was doing, had made a decision that it was no longer in their best interest to have Jimmy Kimmel on the air.
They suspended Jimmy Kimmel?
Well, they told the network that they would not air it. So when you
How does that lead to Kimmel's suspension?
When you take 60 television stations that won't air something, the network has to make a decision.
My point is that
Common sense. Common sense.
All right, folks, let me know what you all think in the comments, and if you've made it this far, you might as well hit that like button and subscribe. I do post on a regular basis, both long and short form, so make sure to keep checking back for more. And if you'd like to support this channel, you can do that right now on preparewithdronetek.com. If you don't have emergency food in case everything shuts down, then now's the time to start building that up.